And here we are, class, back for your SAT video number 2. All right. We did the first 29 questions yesterday. Here we are finishing this up here. Question 10 on the calculator section. Remember, you're going to see this formula sheet twice. Okay? Non-calculator, then calculator portion. All right, so here we've got acceleration due to gravity, okay, 9.8 on Earth, as you know. For the 8 planets, shout out to Pluto, used to be a planet, all right. So what is the weight in newtons of an object on Mercury with a mass of 90 kilograms? All right, folks, they give you the formula, W equals mg, where m is the mass in kilograms, 90, and then g is gravity. So you go over to Mercury. Mercury has gravity 3.6 meters per second squared, and you just plug it in, folks. Easy peasy. Now, this one is a little more interesting. So an object on Earth has a weight of 150 newtons. So weight is newtons. Okay, so we got to figure out how many kilograms this is because Earth has acceleration of 9.8. So you're going to do 150 divided by 9.8, call it about 15.3 kilograms. All right, so on which planet would the same object have an approximate weight of 170 newtons? So first off, it's going to have a bigger acceleration due to gravity, okay, than Earth. So what are you going to do is you're going to take 170, the newtons, and divide it by, it's still 15.3 kilograms. You're going to divide and get 11.1. And what's 11.1? That is Saturn. That is Saturn. Those, the first one's definitely very easy. The second one is not as hard as we might think. All right, so take a look at number 12 here. Function has 5 distinct zeros, okay? So which of the following could be the graph? It means it crosses the x-axis 5 times. Crosses the x-axis 5 times. There's D, 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. D is the only one with 5. 5 distinct zeros crosses the x-axis 5 times. All right, we all want to get that one right. 13. So given this, and if you take calculus with me one day, college algebra we talked about a little bit, but we do this in calculus all the time. All right, this is awesome. This is in terms of feet. If you take the second derivative, so we just talked about 9.8 meters per second squared, it would be 32 feet per second squared. And you get this by taking its derivative twice. Initial velocity, initial height. This one wants us to solve for v in terms of the other two. All right, so I'm going to add 16t over to the other side. I'm going to subtract k. Okay, I'm going to divide everything by t. Going to divide everything by t. And I'm just switching, I'm moving v to this side. So I'm looking here. I'm not seeing this answer. That's because they did, in fact. So don't be careful. People are going to be like, oh, just t in the denominator. It's b. It's not. There's no 16t squared here. Here's what they're doing. They're putting the h and the k together over t because technically 16t squared divided by t, one of those t's could cancel. So the 16t could be brought out to the on its own there, so to speak. So it's D. Our answer is D. Cost of using a telephone in a hotel meeting room is 20 cents a minute. Well, which of the following represents the total cost C in dollars for H hours of use? All right, so first off, it can't be B because that's $60 initially, all right? And then that's just 20 cents an hour, right? So if it's 2 hours, that's 120 minutes, right? Take a look. So here's why it's A. Okay, so it's 20 cents per, and then a minute, but there's 60 minutes in 1 hour. So you know, if you're talking for 120 minutes, that's 2 hours, 60 times 2. If you're talking for 1.5 hours, that's 90 minutes, 60 times 1.5. So it's A. It is A. 60 times how many hours in decimals? Whether it's 2 hours, 1.5 hours, 0.5 hours, 30 minutes. 60 times 0.5 would give you 30. Our choice is A. All right, so, you know, read this carefully here. Read this carefully. Again, this is all about from a large population of people with poor eyesight. So they all had bad eyesight. Half of them randomly assigned to X, the other half did not get X. Okay, and the results showed that people that got the treatment had significantly improved eyesight. Okay, but this experiment only applies to people with poor eyesight. All right, we don't know that about B. C is saying about the same thing, and so is D. This is the only one that addresses people with poor eyesight, and that is what this experiment is addressing. People with poor eyesight only. A. All right, which of the following values does f of x plus g of x equal 0? Again, f of x is going to give you y value, g of x is going to give a y value, and you're looking for a value of x that does that. Okay, so that means when do their respective y values, when are they opposites? Notice here at -2, when x is -2, what is that? F of x is 2, g of x is a -2, and they add to 0 when x is a -2. Okay, they're opposites. That's another way to say it. You could say f of x equals a negative g of x when you get opposite answers. All right, and we're rolling. Okay, you got a supply formula, a demand formula. Okay, shout out to economics here. How much will the quantity of a product supplied to the market change if the product is increased by $10? You're using S&P. Put in a 10, put a 10 in right here. Oops, put a 10 in right here. It's going to go up by 5. It's going to go up by 5. All right. At what price will the quantity of the product supplied to the market equal the quantity of product demanded by the product or market? So you just set both equations equal. You set the supply equation equal to the demand equation. All right. So this is 0.5p. I'm going to add p to both sides. I'm going to subtract 40 from both sides. 1.5p is equal to 180. I'm going to divide by 1.5. I'm going to get 120. Those are two relatively easy questions there. Graphene, I believe, which is used in the manufacture of integrated circuits, so thin, 1 ounce can cover 7 football fields. Wow. That means 48 ounces, that's what they're getting at here, 3 pounds. 48 ounces can cover 336 football fields. If a football field's 1 1/3 acres, 1.3 repeating, just type in 1.3333333 times 336. Get up 448, which is roughly 450. All right. Okay. Number 20. Michael, famous swimmer named Michael, swam 2,000 yards on each of 18 days. That's pretty good. Going, 1.1 something miles a day. Not bad. Scatter plot shows the swim time, the corresponding heart rates after each swim. Okay. Line of best fit is shown. For the swim that took 34 minutes, it would be this swim right here. His heart rate was about how many beats less per minute less than the rate predicted. So it was less. These are going up by 2. They're going up by 2. So it was 1 line below, and 1 line is 2. So it's 2 below, and that's called a residual. His residual there was a -2. All right, folks, we're talking about 21. Of the following 4 types of saving account plan, which option would yield exponential growth of the money in the account? First off, A, B, and D, they're actually talking about constant numbers. 2% of the initial saving, like if you have $100 in there initially, 2% of that means you're going to get $2 a year. And that's a constant, that's a slope, that's a linear function. It's the same thing with B. You get 1.5% of the initial savings, maybe like $3, and then another $100. So you get 103 every single year. In D, you just get a straight 100 every single year. The slope would be 100. C is truly exponential. Your starting amount, and then 1.01 to the t. That's an exponential function. It is 21. All right, honestly, guys, on 22, I'm doing guess and check. Okay, the sum of three numbers is 855, and one of the numbers, the larger one clearly, is 50% more than the sum of the other two numbers. So I'm just going to start. You're going to have to look at the big numbers there, because if you divide 855 by 2, like that's 427 and a half. X has to be bigger than that for sure, because X is so large that it's 50% more than the sum of the other two numbers. So you really have two to check, and that's A or B. So if X is 270, then the other two sum to 285. Again, you have a calculator. But 570 divided by 285 is 2, and it's not 1.5. To be 50% more means you're 1.5 times the other. All right? So X would be 100% more than that, because it's doubled. It's double. And that's why 513 works. If X is 513, 855 minus 513 is 342. 513 divided by 342, that is 1.5. That is 50% more. All right? So guess and check there for the win. Now. We've talked about this a few times, folks. Here's what you're going to have to know. Both of them are acute. If sine A equals cosine B, that means they add to 90. Okay, so that's that identity from pre-calculus. Sine 30 equals cosine 60. Sine 60 is cosine 30. Sine 20 is cosine 70. That sort of thing. So these two angles, when you add them up, you get 90. All right, really. That is from pre-calc. Now, man, we've talked about this question like about 3 different times now, so maybe you guys remember that. Anyway, add up the k's, put the constants together. You're going to get 12 and a half. Sine A equals cosine B. All right, they add to 90. You're complimentary. Mr. Cole has a beaker. All right, this is kind of a harder guess and check, truthfully. I was trying to write down. I ran out of room and made a slight boo-boo. So here's what's going on. All right, so if 3 milliliters to each student, he's going to have 5 left over. In order to give each student 4 milliliters, he's going to need an additional 21. So here's the thing. If you start with 83 milliliters, right? 83 plus 21 is 104. If you divide that by 26, you get 4. That's good. 83 divided by 3 is 26, remainder of 5. And that's what you had. You had 5 left over. All right, so see how I get 26 2 different times? I started with 83, but I have 26 students. I have 26 total students. 26 times, here's what we're going to do here. I mean, again, you can guess and check. Maybe start with a slow one. 26 times 3 plus 5 is 83. 26 times 4 but minus 21 is 83 again. So guess and check there, guess and check. Here's what you got. You got 1 cylinder and 2 cones. I accidentally put 1 cone, but you got 2 cones up there. All right, and they give you the formula for a cylinder and cone on your formula sheet. So pi r squared h plus 2 times 1/3 pi r squared h. Okay? So the radius is 5. We're going to square it times the height. The radius is 5. We're going to square it times the height over here. Okay. This is 25 times 10 times 3.14. Again, if you use the actual pi button in your calculator, I think you get more of this exact answer. 25 times 5 times 2 divided by 3 times 3.14. And this is the answer. This is very, very close. Again, because we rounded pi to 3.14. That's why we're not exact. We don't have the exact answer. All right. Getting close here. 26 is kind of another. So you got these 2 different points, and K goes from a Y value and X value, and it passes through the origin. So which of the volume could be a value of K? So here's what I'm doing. I'm plugging in 0 for K. So I got 2, 0, and 0, 32. All right, first off, 0, 32, it's got to go through 0, 0, so this is automatically a nope. If I plug 4 in for K, 4 right here and 4 right there, notice that 2 divided by 4 is a half, and 4 divided by 32 is not a half. So it's going to have the same sort, especially if it goes to the origin, the same sort of relationship between x and y. Here, y equals 2x, and here, y equals 8x. Now, if I plug 8 in for k, 2 divided by 8 is a quarter. 8 divided by 32 is a quarter. Here, y equals 4 times x. Here, y equals 4 times x. So there it is. K is 8. K is 8. It's going to go through the origin too because you're going to go down if y equals 4x, there's no y-intercept there as well. So you got 0, 0. And if you're over here at 2 eighths, you're going to go down 4 over 1, down 4 over 1. Ding, ding, ding. All right, so guess and check there. 27, got no work there. A rectangle was altered by increasing its length by 10% and decreasing its width by p%. If these alterations decrease the area of the rectangle by 12%, what is the value of p? All right. So you got area is length times width. Area is length times width, right? So with that in mind, we know that the length went up by p%. The length went up by p%. What that means, you got point 1 here. All right. So it was initially L and it was initially W. So the length goes up by p%. I'm sorry, 10%. And now it's at 1.1 L. All right, and the width is altered by p%. It went down by p%. All right, so which you can write that as 1 minus, because we don't know what the percent is. Like if it was 10%, right, you would do 10 over 100, which is 0.1. You do 1 minus that to call 0.9. See, it went up by 10% here. That's why 10 over 100 is 0.1. If you add it to 1, that's how you get 1.1. All right, so that is the area, right? These alterations overall decreased the area by 12%. All right, so that means it's now this. It's now this. All right, so we know that 0.88 times the area is equal to 1.1 L times what I just wrote. We also know that area is length times width, right? Area is length times width. So what we have here then is written too much here, close to each other. All right. What we have here then is 0.88 area is equal to 1.1. 1 minus p over 100, length times width, right? And we already know. So see what I did here? Getting a little bit of hard one. There's other like guess and check ways. This is the way to do it with write an equation. So notice how I have a length that we pulled this out because length times width, that is area. That is area. Okay, so 0.88 area is 1.1 times 1 minus p over 100. Area, right? Look at that. You got a on both sides. 0.88 is equal to 1.1. 1 minus p over 100. All right, you can divide by 1.1. 0.88 divided by 1.1. 0.8 is 1 minus. All right, so then here, you know, how do you get 0.8? 0.8 is if you went down 20%. All right, and really, without really knowing the numbers, you're really just, you're gonna have to set up some sort of equation. You're gonna have to find out numbers that work perfectly for this. You know, what number, if you go up by 10%, then you decrease the other by, you know, 20%, do you get an overall area change of 12%? So that's that. Though, I mean, here's a way you can guess and check. All right, so you know something. You know area is length times width, and you know it went up. One went up by 10%, and then overall it went down by 12%, right? So a much quicker way, because, you know, that was the example. That is what, and some of you guys are, you know, doing your own practice books or whatnot. That is what the answer document had here as an answer. But again, if something goes up by, area's length times width, if something goes up by 10%, that's 1.1. If area overall goes down by 12%, that's 0.88. All right, so then, you know, what happened here, we can simply divide, and I think this is going to be much better here. So x is 20, so it's, or x is 0.8, so it's at 0.8 of its value. If it's at 0.8 of its value, it went down 20%. And in hindsight, I think that one's going to be much better for us. Okay, I think that one is going to be much better. Area's length times width. The length went up 10%, so it's now 1.1 of what it was, times x. Area went down 12%, it's now 0.88 of what it was. Figure out what the width is now in terms of its original value. Went down 20%. It's 80% of its original value. It went down 20%. All right, so sometimes, you know, when you have answer books, I mean, they'll show you a way to do it algebraically a lot of the time. Sometimes that's just more confusing. All right, so I think the second method is going to be much better. All right, here's a quick one. First off, folks, it's going to go down 10%. It's going to go down. It can only be C or D because 0.1 means it goes down 90%. It's 90% of its value because it went down 10%. Okay, and it's going to go 10% every 20 years. All right, so after 40 years, it's gone down 10% twice. 40 divided by 20 would be 2. After 20 years, it's gone down 10% once. 20 divided by 20 is 1. So that's why the answer is D. That's why the answer is D. And, all right. Whoa, I'll tell you what. They are just not messing around here. Okay, so I did a little guess and check on this. They tell you there's 5 times as many female right-handed females than left-handed. There's 9 times as many right-handed males than left-handed males. And honestly, okay, so, you know, I was always pretty good at arithmetic. You know, you got to get 2 numbers here that add up to 122. This number needs to be 5 times this number. This number needs to be 9 times this number, okay? So only so many multiples of 9 here. You know, so if you do 72 and 50, that adds up to 122. And 50 divided by 5 is 10. 72 divided by 9 is 8. And you get the 18 that is up here, right? You get the 18 that is right here. And you get the 122 that's right there. All right, so Another way to write it is x can be the number of lefties, and for the females, and y is the number of right-handed, of righties, okay? Let's see, x is the number of x is the number of left-handed female students, and y is the number of left-handed male students, okay? So x plus y is 18. And then you can also, then the number, okay, so the number of right-handed female students would be 5x, and the number of right-handed male students would be 5y, and that equals 122, and then you could solve that system to get these numbers that I just had up here, all right? I think guess and check, though, you know these two numbers have to add up to 122. This number has to be 5 times that much number. This number has to be 9 times that number. These have to add up to 18. That won't take you too long. Anyway, what's the probability that you are going... what is closest to the probability that a right-handed student selected at random, so it's got to be a right-handed student. It's got to be a right-handed student, is a female. So 50 over, there's 122 of them, and it's that answer. All right, so, as I was writing these up, there's a little bit of a stretch of kind of harder ones here. In the equations above, B and C are constant. If B is C minus 1/2, B equals C minus 1/2. Here's what I did. I subtracted C from both sides. Why did I do that? Because look how nicely these match up if I subtract, because all of these answers are x is y minus, or like x minus y. We're going to figure out what x minus y is, okay? X is y minus. So if I move this over, x minus y is what? Well, here, 3x minus 3y, so I'm subtracting 3x minus 3y. I already know that b minus c is negative 1/2. 5x minus 5y, and the negative 7's cancel. So I'm factoring out the 3 they have in common. There's my x minus y, minus 1/2. I'm factoring out the 5 they have in common. There's my x minus y. I'm subtracting this from both sides. All right, that means 2 times x minus y is this. I'm going to divide by 2. It means negative 1/4 is x minus y. Add y to both sides. X is y minus 1/4. That is A. That is A. Again, that's not the easiest. All right, so holy cow, we're getting into the non-calculated portion here. Do we have a little reprieve? I think we do here on 31. Tickets for his school talent show, $2 for students, $3 for adult. He's going to buy an adult ticket, okay? He's going to spend at least 14, but no more than, at least 11, no more than 14. So now he's going to spend between $8 and $11 on student tickets. And they're $2 pop. So 8 divided by 2, 11 divided by 2 is going to do between 4 and 5. 4 or 5 he can do. So you're going to report either 4 or 5. All right, we can get that one. And then we can definitely get this, folks. It wants to know the mean. You simply add up those 12 presidents' ages and you divide by 12. You divide by 12. It's the sum divided by 12, okay? That one, not tough. That one is not tough. Nor really is 33 for us. Nor is 33. We just got to be careful. We're going to distribute. Negative times a negative is a positive. Negative times a negative is a positive. And all I care about the middle term is, what's the value of b? B is the middle term. So what's 5x plus 4x? That's 9x. That's 9x, so b is 9. B is 9. Now, they do give you a little bit of info here, which is nice. This is from pre-calculus. They do tell you that the number of radians of arc in a circle is 2 pi, and the number of degrees of arc in a circle is 360. So they tell you there's 2 pi radians in 360 degrees. They tell you that on your formula sheet, almost at the bottom there. Okay, so anytime I want to go from radians to degrees, because there's 360 degrees in a... Or again, you can take this and divide it by 2 pi also. So 360 degrees, 2 pi radians. So pi is going to cancel. 360 over 2 is 180. This times this is 900 divided by 4. That's 225. 225 divided by 360 is 5/8. Or you could take this and divide it by 2 pi, which means it's going to be 5/4 times 1 over 2 pi. So it's going to be 5 over 8. 5 over 8. An online store receives customer satisfaction ratings between 0 and 100 inclusive. It means you can include 0 and 100. First 10 outings, they got a score, average score is 75, so that's a sum of 750. What is the least value score they can get on their 11th rating and still have an average of at least 85 for the first? So their goal is an 85 average after 20, so they need to improve over their 75 average. So figure out the sum after 20 ratings. 85 times 20 is 1,700. That's what they need. So they need a 950 on their next 10 ratings. So what is the lowest possible score they can get on the first of those 10 ratings so that they can still mathematically can get a 950. And that's a 50, because if they get a 50 on this next one, then they can get 9 straight 100s. And still get that 950 that they need on the second 10. So 50 is the lowest they can get. All right. In the XY plane, point with that coordinates lies in the solution set. Here's what we're going to do. I mean, treat them as like they're both equal. So set 5x equal to negative 15x plus 3,000. We're going to add 15x to both sides. We get 20x is 3,000, x is $1.50. Y less than or equal to 5 times 150. Y is going to be less than or equal to, why are we saying Y? Why are we saying Y? Because B is a Y value. B is a Y value, okay? So Y is less than or equal to 750, and that's what B is less than or equal to, which gives it a maximum value of 750. Okay. This one was a little wordy. All right. Little's laws can be applied. Okay, so N equals RT, and they tell you how to do that. 3 shoppers a minute. They're going to stay on average 15 minutes. 75 or 45 shoppers in a store at any time. All right, so 84 shoppers an hour. You got to figure out how many shoppers a minute that is, and they're going to stay in the checkout lane 5 minutes each. All right, so 1.5 times 5. I'm sorry, 1.4 times 5 is 7. 7 shoppers in line at any one given time. All right, 38. 90 shoppers per hour enter the store. That's 1.5 a minute. And they're going to stay on average 12 minutes. So that's 18. That is 18 shoppers at any one time. Well, the old store, the store from the previous one had 45. It's right here. All right, so that is a decrease of 27 over the original 45. 27 over 45 is 60% less, so you're going to report 60. All right, so again, you know, there were a few that were a little bit challenging, but there were plenty of in there that we can definitely get. All right, folks, that is the last SAT we're going to talk about this year. And finally, that is Yak Math Video signing out.